the position of the Earth in respect to its vertical position has created the four seasons, a few degrees change. We see summer, winter, we see the motion of the Earth, ravaging winds and the rest of it. We have this in other planets too, which are in vertical position. But because they're constantly at the same, what we call angle in respect to the horizontal position, we don't get the seasons. But this few degree change creates such a variety in race, in vegetation, in different emotion of the planet, and in every other aspects of our lives. Our moods, our emotion changes because of them. Summertime, we feel happy. Wintertime, especially in the northern parts, is highest rate of suicide and everything else which goes with it. But as we look at the structure of the brain of the man, by looking at the structure and how a brain is positioned in respect to the whole verticality of the body of the man, or be the animals. By the scan, we have the knowledge nowadays, we can determine the conditions of the body of the man. We call it the brain of a mess, the brain of somebody who has Parkinson. We say it this way, it's a bit of a desert. It causes dementia. And in so many ways, man, behavior of the man, structure of the man, the way the magnetic fields of his soul with the interaction of the physicality of the brain create the man can be determined by the structure of the brain. We just look at the scans. We don't understand them. We look at the picture of the Earth and we say it's a bit tilted. What happened when our brain tilts? What happened when the pressure changes in the brain, in the skull of the man? If we can understand the interaction of the fields, and if we can understand the expansion of the field forces within the center of the Earth, then we can, in a way, sort these things out. Now we can forecast how the weather is next year, next 30 days, how the fields will interact, where it's going to be cooler, where it's going to be hotter, possibility of the earthquakes and the rest of it. If we look at the brain of the man, and if our, what are called knowledgeable doctors, look at the structure of the child at birth, we can predetermine what planet this planet is going to be. What is going to be outcome of this new soul? And this is what we have not understood. Over past 60 years or so, 55 years, I had the opportunity, I had the pleasure of being able to look at the brain of the man through X-rays, MRIs, and every other means man could image it. Being the son of an X-ray engineer and being familiarized with these machines from age of 7, 8, 9, seeing the X-rays from the bone to kidneys to brain, always interested me to understand how can we change the center, which is the above, which is the brain, for the rest not to happen. Rick, if you can go on Wikipedia and pop out some brains of the scan images of the MS and Parkinson, we might understand this. If we look and the magnetic field of the soul of the man, which is in perfection within the center of the brain. But according to the condition and the environment of its field, the strength of the soul of physicality, creating condition for the structure of the life to be, then our scientists realize it's easier to understand the development of the soul of the man in interaction with the dimension of the soul of physicality, which is to do with the dimension of the flow fields of the blood of the man plus emotion. They don't need medication. They don't need to create chemicals and whatever, and we stigmatize them for different things, because actually our illnesses are very simple. Our doctors have not understood how to handle these things. Pick up an image of a MS patient and the way it tilts or shows by the in Wikipedia. If you look at some of the brain structures, if we need a closer, if you can find a very good single picture of MS brain, just put brain, MS brain, and scan. You get a very good pictures on the channels usually. You see that we call them diseases, but the shape, the way we have the deserts, we have the mountains, suddenly we have the floods, suddenly we have the droughts. It's the same with the brain of the man. If you put a normal scan of a brain next to a scan of a MS, you'll be amazed. In most of the cases, MS brain is, just go down to the one below, if you can bring it up a bit. Yeah. If you look at this brain, usually what we see in the back, there's a ditch at the bottom. If you can open it, you see it. That ditch at the bottom of the picture on the left-hand side gives you the first signs of something is wrong in the structure. This is that tilt. This is that deviation. And if with the technologies which we have developed, like the application of the ganses, which you know how to make, changing the emotion of us in respect to the planet to correct the condition by the gases you throw at the oceans and the gases you produce to change the environment. If we change the environment of this brain, and that ditch goes back to where it was originally, which you can pull it forward just a little bit, then you understand there is no difference in forecasting the structure with emotion and the weather forecast. These images gives us exactly what we see on Earth. Droughts, hills, curvatures, rivers, flow of information, but all this has a center in the center of it, which is the soul of the man. In the interaction with the physicality and the blood flow, the emotion which we bring to it dictates how these ditches, how these changes come in. And our doctors and scientists should be able to ratify this by simply strengthening the soul of the man. Weaknesses brings these deviations. Weaknesses brings these changes. Weaknesses which brings the condition of the what we call interaction of the fields of the emotion of the physicality, the emotion of the soul of physicality and the soul of the man. In a way, our physicality is a slave to interaction of the two fields of the emotion. of the soul and soul of physicality. When the emotion of the man in the dimension of physicality is not satisfied with the condition of his environment, the environment in the terminology is people you live with, environment you live in, interaction with the society, interaction with your siblings, interaction with your boss, interaction with your children. These are the hurricanes, the tornadoes, the beautiful warm summers, the leaf blowing, and everything else. We have not understood that we cannot separate the way, the shape of our brain is and the planet we live on. The shape of our brain, the structure of our brain talks about a desperate situation, incomplete situation. Many times when I used to make the fly systems, I always said, when would man understand he's flying halfway? Instability comes from the bottom end. When you look at the structure of the earth, when you look at the structure of physicality of the earth, when you become wise to understand this, you'll find out we are a flying object. We are absolutely uncontrollable flying entity. Our brain tells us, the structure of our brain dictates this to us. And we need to understand this. If you look at the earth, it has symmetry on top and the bottom, left and right. It's a spherical shape. When you look at the brain of the man, it has a top half. Part is missing. We have compensated through a nerve system, we call this spine, the rest of the shape of this matter. If you look at the reactor in the center of the lens, in the exhibition center, the blue one, which was shown years ago, you see the similarity between the Keshe Foundation and the brain of the man, where we have brought this body of the man into the central point. We have brought the soul of physicality in the center, where the soul of physicality of man as a blood flow goes around to it. Perfection in all dimensions needs totality. So you can understand by looking at this feature from the birth, point of inception, we should be able to tell how our children, how our faces, how our features going to be. A lot of people talk about the stem cells. The stem cells is copying something, but not understanding the totality of the creation. And when you look at the structure of the brain of the man, you'll find out that when there is something wrong in this half because of the shape and connection through the spinal cord, this has to adjust itself to it. And then when the storm comes and the brain is slightly tilts in, the physicality has to respond in the dimension of its interaction. Paralysis, limbs, arms not working. We always said the problem with Earth is that it has not, in the process of its creation, provided the totality of what life needs on this planet, that has created a man to kill, created the animals for that extra energy to be gained to do all sorts of funny things. It doesn't matter if you're a man, the cat, the dog. It's a common denominator, short in the totality of the shape, in the structure of the planet, to be able. And this half circle, this half shape of the brain is replaced with the physicality in the field of strength wise, that it has created the whole problem of the creation. And this is what now we have to understand. With the new systems, with adding, bringing in the what we call the head units, the other system technology developed by us, we try to expand this, that the totality in field interaction will reach and complete while the physicality is still in position. In a way, we allow the soul to complete what was not done, what was not be able to be achieved by the soul of the physicality of the man to complete the circle. In expansioning the soul, in expansion of its spherical shape, we create a completion, but this time is perfect. In a way, the physical body of the man becomes an accessory and a tail which is added to the soul of the physicality as to the soul of the man. If you understand this, then you understand why the first spherical systems I developed, tested in Iran Sharif Tehran University, could fly, could take off, because it's double core. Abroad, you call it the double core. I call it the soul of physicality. Abroad, the soul of physicality, inside the soul of the man, while the fields are in balance with each other. If you look at the shape of the systems, you came to length and you sat in, we have again emphasized you come in with that shape, you have a soul, you call it in the center, we bring it in, you call it, you go to the state of dream. And I said, many people who came and went through it, they say, blurred, we see you, but you're blurred because the soul field has surpassed the physicality. And in that process, if you gradually, step by step, allow the physicality to catch up with the interaction of the fields, then you see any deviation, any fault, any mishaps in the creation or the damage of the brain of the man will find to balance his energy into perfection of itself. And you call it now he's changed. He has no more this condition or that condition. But in fact, what we've done, we have understood the process of the creation. So when we come to explaining the seasons, we call it the autumn, storms, rain. We call it in our brain different diseases. But in fact, it's the same. A new position in respect to the sun, to the soul, gives us different condition and environment. So is the same with the soul of the man. And what energies we can, what strength fields we can allow, what conditions we create with our systems around the brain of the man will dictate how man will look, how man will be in a coming time, in a coming process, in reality of totality of the existence. Then when you move this soul, when you move this central energy to another position, then an interaction of itself with the solar physicality of itself will create a condition that the solar physicality in the interaction with the soul of the man and the environment will give man a new shape. Where at all time, the emotion of the soul of physicality and the emotion of the soul of the man in interacting with each other, being in balance with each other, dictates the manifestation of the perfect physical life at any position in the universe. Now we see there is no difference between the man and the planet which created it and the star which created the whole structure of the environment and the galaxy and the universe. They're all the same. Different winds, different flows. What we see on Earth, we call it the winter storms. We open to space, we have magnetic storms. We have to understand the condition of the universe. Where is the winter time? Because even our own galaxy is not in the right angle with the center, with our central force fields of the universe. So it has its seasons. Our galaxy has its own condition and environment, and the storms and everything else. What is in macro is in micro. It's for man to understand. It's for man to gather the intellect, understanding. If man can manage to handle the storms with his own brain, with his own structure, his own physicality, man can handle everything else in the universe. Because the brain of the man is one of the most complicated systems, but in fact, all connected to the operation of the soul within the center of it. Do you battle in different positions? Or do you handle the strength of the center that the position is becoming irrelevant because you adjust to it? The fields adjust themselves to it. You don't need to do anything. Fighting takes time, fighting takes energy. But if you can be with it, go with it, create the condition of the field flow with it, you'll survive. There is no difference in the operation of the brain of the man. The stones we create as rages, as joy, as laughter, as cry, and then the rain, the thunder, the beautiful sunshine, weather, the deserts, the valleys, and the rest. Our scientists have not understood, have not realized the bigger picture which is in front of you. In our brain, we carry half of the sphere. Instability is guaranteed unless we understand how to operate, how to run, how to manage this champ in the center. Then, once we realize this, once with the development of new technologies, the headlines, the new systems which are going out, and you use the headphones you use in different trials and tribulations of your life with Keshe Foundation, you'll find out I've changed. Those of you who have been with us in truth testing past 12 months plus, sit back and look at 12 months ago. Sit back and look prior to June before you start coming to LINS and analyze what has changed in my life. Emotionally, physically, and psychosomatically, and every other angle. What do the people tell me today? What do I see today compared to last year? as the hope has changed, as the prosperity of understanding life has changed. And then you understand there has been evolution. We have understood how to allow you to elevate, to free your soul, and in interaction to repair the conditions, elevate the positions which must have or might have done reduce in field strength, and then going back to. If 12 months ago you had the Parkinson, 12 months ago you had MS, and 12 months ago you had the Alzheimer's, or 12 months ago you had different conditions, look today and see what is it. Is not the technology, is the elevation of the soul, in a way repairing itself by strengthening the soul to expand beyond. Those of you who think it might happen in one time, you're dreamland. You live in absolute dream. Cells have to repair and see what is needed to be repaired next, what has changed to change back. When you see a paralysis from MS today, it's not suddenly yesterday I could move this finger and today I can't. It's not today. This is planned 7 years before, 10 years before by the brain. Millions of cells have been ordered to shut down step by step, knowing that your cells, your deviation takes to 9 years to change in the body of the man. Then you understand, to reverse the conditions man has created for himself. The conditions man has determined for himself comes out of his own lack of strength of the fields of the soul to interact with the dimension of the soul of physicality to create the condition of the working condition of the physical man. When you look at the finger not moving, this is reflection that the soul of physicality and the soul of the man have shut down that place in the brain. Now, physicality shows itself years later. Why do we age? And why we call it death? If man realizes through perfect, whatever you condition, you call it, to feed, give enough energy, man will find out can survive a lifetime. I always said, a lot of people tell us, we eat a balanced diet, we don't eat meat, we are vegetarian, we are vegan. Do you realize what it means? If you understood the work of the energy needed to elevate, to absorb by the soul, to expand, and you tell vegetarians and the others live longer. So you understand, by true vegetation, eating vegetables or whatever you call it, the way of life, you kill more animals to give more energy to your soul to live longer. Man should have understood this. It's not the healthy life. It's how much energy in a lower level we absorb, we digest, we give to our soul, that it can maintain the operation of the soul of the physicality in the dimension of the brain of the man. We consume food in that way. Now we understand, if man could understand, if our scientists would have linked the lines together in one way or another, that large energies consuming meat in the high energy levels does not give that low energy feel strength which vegetation gave to the soul of the man, man would have never eaten food. And now that we understand this, we train our souls to absorb the weakest fields from the universe. Will guarantee life for eternity. Is the misconception of the man that he needs bigger things to get bigger to survive longer. In the world of the creation, the brick blocks, the blocks which brings you up to keep you to survive, is the weakest lines. A man in that position, if he understands it, then does not look for the strongest field in the universe because he hasn't got the capability of handling it. He looks for the weakest, for the one which has the lowest strength that his soul can maintain and absorb, and then in interaction with the environment, feel the strength, create manifestation of perfect life, perfect physicality. The biggest dilemma for man has been that he looks always in big things, big amount of consumption, but he doesn't understand the bigger structure. Big things eating is in the dimension of physicality, the soul of the man, the structure of the physicality of the universe. Look at every star, look at every planet, look at galaxy and universes, all work on the weakest. When you become matter state, you need a strong, bigger. When you work in the dimension of the plasma, you need the lower strength that you can add to. You build from inside, you build from the under. If man understands this, if we come to understand the complete comprehension of the totality of the system, then we understand how much we have come to miscomprehend the totality, the reality about the creation, the life on this planet, and the rest. Then, when I explain to you, when you put a food in your mouth, you are just an attraction point. You are now have created a condition for your life, for your body to attract that little fields which come from outside. In a way, you have set the seed of absorbing fields. This is your dimension of physicality, and you have a big stomach. In the stomach, when you put the food, as I explained many times, when you eat, all you do, you set the small seed of, in a way, by body of the man, converting the food into another material in the stomach and then changed it into a gas, which creates a small field. Now you have created the condition for absorbing the fields of the universe into you. 80% of your energy which you absorb to run this physical condition. And in the process of the digestion, where it goes, how fields are interacted, decides what kind of diseases you will get. This is why the new technology in health, in the space technology, by changing the environment of this condition, just creates the fields and the body in respect to getting it from possibly the cosmic rays as a source to change, to develop, to repair. Then you'll come to understand in the future, one of the most important things for man will be, going back to what we just said, is that the brain of the man will change its shape to spherical. The shape we see, our shape of our brain will 100% change as we go into this process. If you look at the pictures of the magnetic field of the Earth, you have Earth, you have the direction of the flow, of the field of the sun. And if you look, we have a tailwind because the strength of the field facing pushes the fields back. Now, isn't this the shape of the brain of the man? But in that tailwind, the shape of our brain has changed to this shape. So what do we absorb in the direction of fields? From the frontal view, from the face side, that pushes our brain to be extended slightly to the back. What fields from the cosmos we receive on the tail end and the front end. And how these affects the emotion, the physicality of the man in the process of the creation in his life. In the new systems, which some of you took part last Friday, and some of you take part this Friday. Tomorrow, we are testing this on you. How would your emotion change? We don't tell you how we play with it. We don't tell you how we just strengthen. We have put systems in operation in our system to see how you absorb energies. How much from the back and how much from the front, and how the system evaluates. Don't forget, we have tons of you in this test, not one or two. So we see average operation of the totality of humanity. In the solar system, the tailwind of the facing the sun, if you look, is like this. Because it comes from the sun, field forces that are strong. And if you look at this, is the eye of the man too. And your soul sits in line in that tail centralized. So that's why you see your dreams. The dreams you do not see are the dreams, are the field interactions which are created by the back and not coming through the front. Those of you who say, I can't remember, I don't dream, it's because you're heavily loaded on the field of strength on the back end of the head, not on the front end. And it shows your behavior. Many of you, when you've been with us and says, it has no effect on me, because this has a meaning when the energy is on the back end, not on the front. And then it's so heavily loaded that does not allow the soul to expand to the front that you can see the visions. In the trials, which has been going on in the past week and the coming week, and then into the future, we are evaluating in how we change the shape of the brain of the man, this extension, to create a balance that in one go you can decide and you can learn to transmute. Some of you who took part in the last week, somewhere in between, you should have had a shift of emotion, change of emotion suddenly without you knowing, because we changed the system to see if it does. And we saw it on the graphs immediately. In a future test, when we put you through the dimension of the physicality, we will go even further into this. We go further in understanding the totality of what we call life. How we will do, how we will bring that into operation. How we can change this in the addition of understanding of the work. How we can change in totality the dimension of the existence. Now you understand. In a dimension of the plasma, you call it tailwind of the earth, magnetic field of the earth. In the brain of the man, because the soul sits so perfectly in the center, the tailwinds are created as a matter structure of the physicality of the brain of the man. And at the same time, if you understood this, you have another dilemma with you, and that is because the tail end is so in interaction with the body of the man, with the field interactions of what we call magnetic field of the earth, has no choice. This is your brain. This is the shape of your brain. This is gravitational magnetic field of the earth. So the soul sits, hold on to, as is the soul of the planet. What does it do? Earth has inertia, matter state second weapon. You call it the soul of physicality, and it pulls. As it pulls, it creates the shape of the man. This is where the other half of your field forces have disappeared to. In the interaction between the soul of the man and the soul of physicality of the man, man has created, compensated for the harsh of physicality. The storm has pushed the brain up and created the relief of lower energy called the physical condition. This is why it does not matter where you walk on earth, you always have that condition. This is why we see what we do, what we have, and how we need to understand the totality. We got to understand that the process of creation is the same. You look at the bigger scale of this, you look at the shape and the position of our solar system in respect to its galaxy central point. You will see the same shape. It's not just holding on to, it has field forces that it pushes, releases energy. This is where the very first paper I published about the creation of black hole emphasizes on this. Black holes are not absorbing. They're radiating more than they absorb. They absorb from everywhere. The lower fields amalgamate them and release as a bigger, stronger field. What they release decides the shape of the galaxy. What man's soul releases decides the shape of the man. In respect to his environment of Earth, or our sun, our solar system in this galaxy, and the same shape of the galaxy in respect to the central point of the universe. If, as I explained last week, You go to a forest, you lose your way, and you try to find your way back out. The shape, the dimension, and the direction of what we call the trees will give you where the sun is, which direction you're going, in which dimension and which direction you need to travel. What is the sun? What is the north? What is the south? When you see the trees, the heavier branches, longer branches face the sun. The thinner branches are away from the sun because they absorb more energy. In the galaxies, when our scientists come to understand which way the galaxies shape, they all show us the path to the center. We call the tree the leaves and the branches. We call it the galaxy with the stars and planetary system. But in fact, it's the same as entity, the same entity as well. And the direction of the fields, of the magnetic fields of it, instead of the shape of the galaxy, will show us which way the wind of the central system of the universe is blowing. Are we in the north pole of the universe? Are we in the south pole of the universe? If we measure the gravitational magnetic field of our galaxy, then we can determine the position of us. Those of you who travel in UFOs have to gain this knowledge before you get into it. Is your captain taking you this way, where you want to go that way, because your daughter has moved to galaxy so and so? Now you understand. It's the same when we become wise to operation of the universe. The shape, the dimension, and the direction of the field interaction of the universe will dictate us, will show us the way to our creator, to the central point. This is how the humanity has to extend his knowledge, extend his understanding of, expand his process of the knowledge gaining through the weaker fields of the universe if he works with the plasma, and not through this massive, everything has to be big. Because when it's big, it creates power and you'll be frightened of it. God, your creator, comes to you through the weakest, the shrinks of the fields, and you don't even know it because you're looking for him to be so big. That's why he's in every cell, every existence, every thought of you, because you have not learned not to be physical, not to look at the biggest thing. I always said, when you go to communist countries like Russia, when you go to places like the churches and the mosques, you go to the offices of the government, they make it so big that you live in a tiny house, so this thing big must be very important. Fear of size, not knowing there is no soul in any of these buildings, not even in the churches or the mosques, because the strength of the creation comes from the smallest, the essence of common denominator of the life of the universe. If it was supposed to be so big, you would have never existed. It would have hit you so hard that you can't even stand it. The love of the mother comes from those small caresses of touch, not from the heavy hugs and the slams. When you sleep, and the fingers of the mother run through your hair, your skin, and touches you, and she says, I love you. You feel it. And this is the love of the Creator. And man has not understood this. If you think one day man will see the Creator in a huge entity, you have not even understood the essence of the creation. And it's the same with our doctors, it's the same with our scientists. To expand the soul of the man, you have to reach to the lowest level of strength fields as a plasma, not a big hammer and a sledge. If you look at the stone with all this mighty, when you look at these mountains with the huge size of them, what does he powder them? What does he break them up? What destroys them and what makes them? A little drop of rain receives through the cracks, step by step, and then expanding. Man has not learned the process of the creation. Man has not understood the process of the creation. And this is why the systems, the technologies we are testing, developing look so amazing, because we have learned to come in the soft way, the small, the way you are created. You come with the rich, you come with the heavy fields, you give yourself Alzheimer's, you give yourself Parkinson's, you give yourself everything else which your body cannot hold. And then you call it, I'm sick. I have this disease, I have that disease, because you don't know, you use a sledgehammer of the emotion on the physicality of the man, which is weak and works on the fields of the universe. This is where the new technology will come as amazing, shocking, and unbelievable, because man has never had any belief in the creation, the process of creation of itself. And most of this condition came out of fear, religion, and those who abuse the man. Now you understand. Go down deeper inside you. Allow the fields of the creation to touch you, and not the storms of life, of the physicality, which the body has no way to stand in. The little touch, the little love, the little essence of giving and creating the condition that allows that weaker to come in. You receive the weakest, you give the strongest. In that process, your strongest become weakest for someone else's energy to become the essence of his creation. Now you understand why I keep on saying, and I've been teaching for years, the whole process of the creation in the simple word of loving. Maybe as knowledge seekers today, you understand a little bit more about the essence of your own creation and how you have created mayhem with the storms and ravages of your own emotion that the physicality cannot take. Maybe you understand from now on how you absorb the energies of the universe. And then with it, you learn how to expand the soul to become the passengers of the unicorns and not just passengers of the planet Earth or this universe. And then maybe if you understand how low can go, then you find the strength of the field of the Creator. When you steal, you add to, you make it heavier, you make it stronger, and this is why stealing is not allowed. because you walk away from the weaker, which is the essence of the line of your connection to your Creator. The heavier load you carry, the slower you go. I hope you learned something today. I hope you understood how and the way life has to be for man. Not only on this planet, not only within the brain of the man. And now you see similarities in real condition of the life, which you call it diseases, and we call it storms, weathers, and seasons. I hope with the new technology and understanding this, we create the next step. As I said to somebody in front of me in the very same room I'm sitting now today, last night, that I'm not interested in all this. What I'm interested is to show the man the way he can apply this part of universe. He can see the beauty of the creation, not with rockets, spaceships, and every other material condition, but through the essence of the strength of his own soul. And does not need that jet propulsion to create the faster run to take off. He needs to understand the lowest energy fields. That's the path to his Creator. And this is a very big dilemma for man. How to live in both dimensions of his strength, of his condition of physicality, and the weak in the strength of the lines to his Creator. Connection to his essence of his own creation. Thank you very much for today. And I hope I open your eyes into a new dimension. And in a while, your test, your cooperation with Keshe Foundation is opening that door. For you and for those who gradually learn, man lives two lives, schizophrenic. One is a devil and one is an angel. The devil is physicality of the man, he has to do everything to keep it. And the angel is the soul of the man connected to the line of the Creator.